Right, 18 October 2020, and I'm joined by Mr. Terence Simbi, author of the book, Zimbabwe, Installing a True Democratic State. How are you, sir?
Yes, I'm doing well. How are you, Mr. Gambagwe?
Fantastic. And today we want to quickly look at the topic of the extradition of Xavier Kasukuwere, Walter Mzembe, and Jonathan Moyo. These are the former G40 kingpins. Did you see the press conference by Kazembe this week?
Yes, I saw the press conference by Kazembe and the issue of these, they call them fugitives, which are outside, which was referred to by Kazembe, saying yes, that they come back to face charges here. So yes, I saw it.
Okay, so what kind of charges are we talking about here? As far as I'm concerned, Kasukuwere came out last week and said that he was not facing any charges. He did not run away from Zimbabwe. What has changed to make the government of Zimbabwe consider someone like Kasukuwere or Jonathan Moyo or Walter Mzembe a fugitive?
Well, I think the major problem with the Zimbabwean politicians and Zimbabwean politics itself is that there are rules where you are at the top of the political ladder. If you are at the top of the political party, if you are at the top of government, you know, there are provisions which can be used to suppress other factions, you know. So we talk about the RICO provision. We talk about suspensions which come into political parties. So there's a level of cowardness in Zimbabwean politics where people don't want to compete with each other. So you can see the problems which are there in the MDC. You can see the problems which are there in ZANU PF, that there are factional fights, but people do not want to come for a democratic process which is open to everyone to come and debate issues. So you saw it even when you saw the former president there, Robert Mugabe. He used all the tools available to get rid of challengers. You see, you saw Emerson Mnangagwa, how he was persecuted. But the political system does not allow people to debate independently. It does not allow that. So all the problems are coming from coward politics we have. That when you are at the top, you suppress opposing forces using the tools which are available, rather than having a system where people can choose their leaders from open debates. So the current leaders right now, Emerson Mnangagwa and President Emerson Mnangagwa and the ZANU PF faction, which is in control of ZANU PF right now, is using the tools which are available to suppress what? Opposing. The opposing faction, the Kasukuweres and the Jonathan Moyo. But at some point, the Kasukuweres also used the same tools when they had those rallies, you know, naming and shaming Emerson Mnangagwa. So we have what we call coward politics in Zimbabwe. And if we remove that cowardness in politics, we will reach somewhere. So you can see even in MDC, in my book, there's this chapter where I talk about this RICO provision. And I said it's the source of the problem. That's the source of the problem. Because Nelson Chamisa, at that time when I wrote my book, Nelson Chamisa was the one who was in charge of MDC. So he was also using those same provisions to suppress what? To suppress challengers. He was recalling the Chegutu mayors, the Victoria Falls mayors, whatever. But right now it's now happening to him now. So we have to remove those rules, especially the RICO provision. That's the one which we have to remove so that people do not engage in coward politics. We want an open debate. We want people to come out and express themselves that we want to be presidents also, and not be persecuted like in these ways that we now use the military to settle political differences. We have to remove the coward politics we have in Zimbabwe. We have to remove that. That's the major problem. And these rules, Section 129, the issue that also a land can be offer letters can be withdrawn or issued by one minister. So you saw that this land issue was also being used as a weapon, where we saw land which was allocated to Xavier Kasukuwere being withdrawn, land which was offered to use it, Joao was being issued to another person. So the governance system must allow people to enjoy as one, and people must not be persecuted for being different.
Okay, so in your view, is someone like Kasukuwere or Jonathan Moyo or Walter Mzembe, are they causing problems in Zimbabwe? Why are they a threat? Why are they, since September 13, if you look at the Herald, they've carried a number of stories, the Ministry of Information, even the security cluster, they've carried stories on these G40 members.
Yes. What
has happened now, which is causing ZANU PF to be afraid of Jonathan Moyo, Kasukuwere, and Mzembe more than they were before?
Well, it's a big factional fight. The factional fight did not end by the military coup there. You see, it did not end. And they had, you see, these are former influential people. You see, Walter Mzembe was he former foreign affairs minister? Jonathan Moyo. These are influential people who have links in Zimbabwe, and they have the probability of turning even the security system. They know, you know, they know how to. They have the probability of what. Of turning it, because they used to have those security clearances. They used to be in charge of these ministries. So the only problem I have now is that we have what we call coward politics in Zimbabwe. These people, they don't need to be outside. They have to be in Zimbabwe, you know. But the politics now we have now, it's immature politics we have. So it's part of the factional fight which was there in 2017, where they did not have a political process to settle the difference in ZANU PF. So this, unless this is concluded in a political way, there will always be that threat which is posed by these influential people, the Xavier Kasukuweres and Jonathan Moyo, because they used to. You saw the former position of Xavier Kasukuwere was a political commissar, which is a very influential position in terms of coverage in Zimbabwe. So we have to fix the politics so that it is not coward politics. All the problems we have of Nelson Chamisa not contesting Dr. Thokozani Kupe, he also used the same provisions which are in the constitution. And even Tsvangirai himself, when he was still alive, he also used the same provisions to get rid of challengers like Tendai Beat, where you say they formed another party, they are no longer, and then they get recalled. So we have to have political contestation, which is free, fair for everyone. And we have to remove this coward mentality in Zimbabwean politics. You see, myself, I'll tell you the first video we did. I told you that I'm a politician. That is no doubt. I'm a politician. But I don't want to join any political party. Because if I was a member of a political party right now, what will I be forced to be doing? Or be forced to say, I'm either for Chamisa, I'm either for Kupe, which has totally nothing to do with governance. And politics is all about governance. So these are the things which we have to see, that Zimbabwe comes in with politics which is not from a coward position, where people can be allowed to contest each other, can be allowed to say out their views without this political jacket, without these factional jackets which are there. So yes, these guys pose a great challenge, because it did not, the things which happened in 2017 did not, it was not the right kind of political situation we want, where the military can now be used to do that. So they have also the same probability that they can organize some of the security forces, because they used to have clearance, they used to have influence in Zimbabwean military, they used to have clearance in intelligence. So, but we have to first of all solve this issue of contestation, of political contestation in Zimbabwe.
Okay, now you mentioned a very interesting position, that of ZANU PF Commissar. And I want us to go a little bit into what happened last week.
Yeah.
There was an attack at the house of the former Commissar I think it's Engobert Rugeje.
Yeah.
And someone died there.
Yeah.
However, during Kazembe's press conference, he did not address it. The journalists did not question him about it. What do you think is happening there?
Well, obviously, it's part of the factional fights which are there, and it's obviously that it's now getting into this military, this militia type of thing, which the last video we did, we talked about this issue that if they do not have a political contestation, it will end up in this situation where the military, there will be now security threats of the chain of command, there will be security risks which are in the country. But it's all coming from the same issue, that the factional fights were not allowed to happen in a political way. They were settled using militia, the militia. So unless we solve this issue where we say our political parties, people can openly debate, can openly declare that I want to be president. You see, and I didn't like what also happened in MDC, where you saw that you have to first of all have the process. And it's happening right now when they are having this Congress, where you have to first of all have a nomination, whatever. Why can you not just declare, I want to be president of MDC? I want to be president of ZANU PF. So these tensions persist. Right now in ZANU PF, we have these meetings. ED 2020, 2023. Even if there are people we know who want to also be presidents in ZANU PF, why can you not just come and declare that I want to also be president and be given a chance to contest? This is what I don't get in these rules which are there in political parties, and this is the same thing I saw a few years ago, that I don't want to be a member of a political party because you are boxed into thinking into these factional elements where at the end of the day we are no longer talking about governance, but we are talking about a person. That Chamisa Chete Kupe Chete ED 2033. But we know that there are people who also want to be in that position. Why can they not be allowed to declare that I want to be president of ZANU PF, I want to be president of MDC, and stop these rules that you must have a nomination? And we saw even in Nelson Chamisa in the run up to the June Congress, they had the Shambolic. People had to supervise themselves, the elections themselves, each and every province where they are. It does not allow people to differ from the current leaders there. But we have to have this openness in Zimbabwean politics, where because this secret things, hidden things, these are the things which are now leading to these security threats, where we see attacks now happening to the former political commissar, because they will be now having these secret things, organizations where they will be supporting a person up to, just like we saw President Emerson Mnangagwa when he ascended. We hear that there were secret meetings that happened, when they were organizing. You saw the Blue Ocean, which was presented by Jonathan Moyo there. Why does it have to happen in secret, this meeting? Why can't people just come and declare that I want to be president of ZANU PF, I want to be the next leader of MDC, and be allowed to contest? Just like what happens in each and every other country. You see it in America. People, they come and declare, I'm Bernie Sanders, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I want to also be the president of the Democrat Party, and you are given a chance to contest other leaders in a free and fair manner. So these hidden things which happen in private, these meetings, they're the ones which now lead to these situations where we have security threats in militias now attacking the former political commissar in whatever. Why we cannot have a political system where you declare you want also to be president and stop these ED 2023 slogans? Why can we not have that?
Okay, so I think let's go a bit deeper into that. If Kasukuwere was supposed or allowed to come back to Zimbabwe freely,
yes,
is it going to be safe in Zimbabwe, given that Kasukuwere comes from an intelligence background and he has got all these links within the security forces? Is it safe for Kasukuwere to be in Zimbabwe but not in jail? Someone like Rugeji, who could be out to get him? What are the dynamics there?
It's now a cultural thing which we have to entrench now in our politics, where because you see the risk now of maintaining him outside, you see now the risk which is happening in Zimbabwe, where yes, initially they were seen to be the ones who are behind the July 31 demonstration, whatever. So it's also risky to keep them outside. So it's a cultural thing which we have to learn, that political contestation has to be allowed to happen in Zimbabwe, and because maintaining him outside, it's also continuing the security risk we see now. Well, and when we reach a level where we now have militias now, it won't be now a proper country now if it's running that way, where to settle political argument disputes we now involve these secret militias, these secret groupings of armed people who will be attacking politicians on different factional sides. This will not be possible. It starts with the acceptance that there can be a democratic process, and also a culture where people accept that, yes, I contested in this and I lost, because in contestation, and this also has to do with leadership. You see, a person like Nelson Chamisa, who contested in a presidential election, then 2 years after that, he's denying what? The results. It also comes with maturity. Where, as leaders, they must accept democratic processes, that a process happened, but I lost a process, and we have to move on. And he has to. So you see, on this point, I don't have to go to the public to say that the public has the problem. The public is just like sheep, and they depend on what? On leaders. The leaders are the ones who set the tone on a culture in a country. So right now, the culture we have, because of to some extent, Nelson Chamisa, who does not want to accept the election result, is a culture where we have poor democratic practices, where a democratic process happens, but after that democratic process, people deny the result of the democratic process, and they continue with this dire situation. So part of the problem is also goes to the leadership we have, that does not want to accept that after a democratic process happens, it does not want. So with the issue of these elements, Kasukuwere were outside, they feel aggrieved because there was no democratic process which happened internally in ZANU PF.
Okay, so let's go to the question of safety. If someone can attack Rugeji,
yes,
who has got security, who is armed, and Kasukuwere is outside Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Let's say Kasukuwere is now in Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
And he's got 50% support in ZANU PF.
Yeah.
How does Mnangagwa become safe in Zimbabwe? Or is there a need for a dialogue first before Kasukuwere comes back and all the other ZANU PF G40 people? Otherwise, there will be war.
No, there will not be war. That's what I'm saying. It's all about leadership. The leadership we have in Zimbabwe, which does not want to subject itself to democratic processes. That's the major problem we have. So and to say there must be a separation between political party and the government of Zimbabwe. That's why I talk about this recall provision, where I say that yes, he can come back to ZANU PF and he can be the president of ZANU PF through a democratic process. But that does not mean that he can be the president of Zimbabwe at the same time. You see. So right now with this recall provision, and the non-separation of saying political parties and the government. These are two different things. And so if he comes and gets the president of ZANU PF, that does not automatically means that he is the president of what? Of Zimbabwe. So we have to get rid of this recall provision. That's the thing, because there's a separation between the political party and the government. Because Emmerson Mnangagwa has the majority of vote in what? In the presidential election. So whatever happens in ZANU PF should not affect what? The presidents of the country. Because those are two different what? Those are two different things. That's why I advocate for the total repeal, for the removal of the recall provision. I had foreseen that. Yeah.
So you are saying this will happen naturally, that in ZANU PF there could be contestation,
yes,
without any dialogue, without any re-engineering.
Obviously,
all the commissars have died. Like everyone who's been a commissar of ZANU PF has either been killed or has had to leave the country. And apparently Mnangagwa has surrounded himself with his clansmen. So he has made sure that every key position is occupied by his own people. Do you think if Kasukuwere was to come and he wins the election, they will just leave him like that?
That's what I'm saying. The major problem we have is it's a culture which is a cultural issue of non-acceptance of these elections, which can happen in political parties. And even the presidential elections themselves, where people continue to dispute the results for 2 years, creating this dire situation in the country. So people must learn to that's why I always talk about the smooth transfer of political power, or the smooth. And as a young country right now, yes, we had the first mistake, which we had, that for 37 years, there was a level of repression which was there from Robert Mugabe, and the first leadership change we have was through a military coup. So as a young country, my concern is on that. How do we now move forward in terms of contestation, in terms of differences in opinions? Because that's why in most of my interviews I talk about the smooth transfer of power, the smooth movement from one administration to the other. Why is it important? Why do I always emphasize that? Because we are still a young country, and the decisions which we make right now will determine how we are to move forward as a country. Are we tolerant to the leadership changes? Are we tolerant to differences in opinions? So currently, in all politics in Zimbabwe, whether the opposition politics, whether the ruling party politics, there is that lack of contestation, open contestation, where people can differ and be allowed to move forward in those differences. And for a young nation like ours, these are things which we are top of my priority. You see, that's that book, Zimbabwe Installing a True Democratic State. It talks about these issues that once we go wrong in these earlier years, you see some other countries on the African continent, you see leadership changes will come in through these military coups. They will have 4, 5, 6 coups up until they reach a stage where they are now mature now, when they have political contestation, when they accept that it can be a democratic process to move from one administration to the other. But for ourselves, early on, when we made this mistake in November 2017, which came from that issue where also President Robert Mugabe had strategically also positioned his clansmen, also his family members, also in all the key positions to solidify his presence there. The same things which Robert Mugabe did are the same things which also the current president is also having to do, because of the violence in which we moved from one administration to the other. So if we solve, that's why I'm talking about this, we should have contestation, more contestation, where differences in opinions can be allowed to be there. That's why I'm in Zimbabwe, and I don't fear to talk about these things because it's very important, especially at the stage we are as a country. We are a very young nation. And if we get in this habit of making leadership changes from coups, we will continue to have this situation. We will continue to have this persistent situation where we see coup after coup. Militias now trying to we should find a formula where we value each and every person, especially those where I said right now, because they are part of of Zimbabwe. Yes, they might have mistakes, but these are the things we should create in our governance systems where we value each and every Zimbabwean. And if there are differences in opinions, we should find a way of moving forward as a nation.
Okay, I think many people will have to go back and watch the last video we did, where you said the command structure in Zimbabwe is now a security threat. It was prophetic when you talked about the only way to get power will be through the use of force by whatever faction wants to take over. Now, is it possible that there is a tribal angle to what is happening now in Zimbabwe? One tribe feeling dominated by another and wanting to replace the other tribe which is in office.
I think that has always been the issue, you know, of tribesmen, you know, in Zimbabwean politics. And to solve this, that's why I've always proposed that we should have a governance system which is provincial based, you know, where right now, yes, with the devolution laws, they advocate for that, and I'm happy that Mr. Tendai went for a case where he was representing some citizens who were advocating for devolution laws, and the court ordered Parliament to create those laws within a year, where most of the decisions now, whether be it land, whether be it the issuance of mining rights, you know, they be done at provincial levels, where tribes who are centered in certain provinces have that right to determine the growth, the trajectory, the issuance of resources which are in their tribe, which are situated in their provincial areas in that tribe alone, you know, without the domination of one tribe, which is now the president, the president's tribe, where he can assign ministers who can issue mining licenses, whether farming land, all those things can be done through the minister. So these are the things which we need to improve to create a governance systems where, you know, as at local provinces, at local regions, you know, people in those tribes, in those areas, who are in those areas, you know, can make decisions, you know. These are the allegations which also were there for the opposition, where we saw the imposition of candidates to run the mayoral seat in Bulawayo, which were from another tribe, and it created a lot of problems, that issue. So as a solution, we have to create a governance system which is provincial based, where people in that local area have to make decisions for themselves. People in Matabeleland are given significant authority to exercise. So with the devolution laws, it's an opportunity we have to create that governance system, which does not create a governance system which does not centralize like we have right now, where all the decisions are made by the central government, which concern any decision. So to remove tensions going forward, this we have to work seriously on this provincial setup and let provinces.
Okay, Mr. Simbi, I'm very happy with your governance approach to all the problems that we have, and I want us to bring this discussion to a conclusion.
Yes,
and you can almost feel that I want to keep going back to the same point.
Yeah,
that can Kasukuwere just walk back into Zimbabwe and live happily ever after? I have a feeling that it's not possible, And I want to read for you a comment here by George Chinyande.
Okay.
George, your comment is very big, so it will cover the whole screen, as you can see. So I'm going to read it off screen. And it says, the problem with Zimbabwean journalists, editors, and so-called analysts is to simply wake up and create fake and false scenarios and proceed to sustain useless arguments from that. In the case of Kasukuwere, he must first clear his name and prove his loyalty to ZANU PF and get readmitted or the situation regularized. Right, so you can see that there is a process that needs to be followed to come back into ZANU PF. But there was no process that was followed to get him out of ZANU PF.
Mm.
Is this not the same problem that you've been talking about? Mm. That if a powerful faction comes in, they'll take you out, and you can't come in again, except if you use force. So for Kasukuwere to come back now, does he not need to use force to become the president of Zimbabwe?
No, that's what I'm saying now. To say that it comes with maturity, you know. We have to have political maturity where we allow. Obviously, there have to be negotiations first with the current leaders, but this issue now, where we continue with this stage, where now we now seeing these security threats which we saw, and they are coming from this issue that there are no political processes to contest each other. So this is the major thing which we have to concentrate on, having processes where differences are encompassed in membership. So yeah.
Okay, then is Mnangagwa safe then in his current position? If he goes for the presidency in 2023, is he going to be safe during this period between now and 2030? When he's in office, is he going to face more security threats, and what can be done to address the situation? Besides what you've just mentioned now, putting in place processes, what else can be done now? When you talk of negotiation, what kind of negotiation? Who can mediate these negotiations? And is it only within ZANU PF, or does it have to include other parties?
Well, the major problems now here is ZANU PF, you know. ZANU PF, and when we did the video of the security threat, I concentrated more on ZANU PF because I said that if they don't come up with clear guidance in ZANU PF, it will become there will be security issues, and we are now starting to see them emerging right now. In the MDC, we also gave the same warnings that they should have process, and we now see the fights which are now happening in the MDC. Yes, and so in ZANU PF, that's where the major issues. And I even said that in ZANU PF, it will be now these militias which will start to emerge, and we now start to see it. So in ZANU PF, that's where we have the major dialogue which we have to come up with.
Okay, so let's go to where we are now. Kasukuwere is stuck in South Africa. If they extradite him to Zimbabwe, is he going to be safe? Or should South Africa just not do it? Do they have a choice, or they just have to send him back to Zimbabwe?
Yeah. In your earlier question, you said who can mediate this issue, and I can give some countries which I think are more favorable to help with this situation. Countries like Tanzania, Magufuli, countries like Nigeria, they can help out with the negotiations which have to take place, because they are much, they are elder countries, they are elders in terms of their setup, and especially Tanzania. Why, if I say Tanzania, it's a country with a major political party in the party which PPP, which Magufuli is head of. It's a similar party to ZANU PF, and we also have historical similarities which can come from Tanzania to help out with the situation we have in ZANU PF. Because if it persists, we will see more security threats going forward. And this can be solutions. These countries can help out in trying to give sanity. Because if we continue like this, the security situation in this country will continue to deteriorate. It will continue to deteriorate. But there's no need for President Mnangagwa to fear people like that. If they're allowed to come and contest, there's no need to do that. This is the same thing which I gave to Nelson Chamisa, that he should not fear to be contested. He created these rules which made it impossible for Douglas Muzora to contest him. And you saw now the same person was the one who created this coup we now see in the MDC. So there's no need for the president to fear these people. He should just allow them to come and contest him. Because the more we see this ED 2023, the more enemies are there which are behind him, which myself, I prefer enemy who I see, who is visible there, rather than to operate with people who have double allegiances, who are pretending to be your friend, and at the same time they're causing you downfall. So you see, even in the Nelson Chamisa case, you see where commission was now talking that everything which was done by Nelson Chamisa, they were going secretly and discussing it with Douglas Muzora in private, saying, these are not things which are good for governance, where you operate with people who have double, who are chameleons. It's rather, for me, it's rather, I know that you want this position rather than operating with the person in secret, who's planning your downfall in secret. So the president does not have to fear some of these things. He's a strong person. Why should he fear challenges from Kasukuwere, these guys? He should not fear challenges from this. This is the same problem. He does not have to fear them.
Okay. So let us conclude. And the question that we had is still unanswered. You said countries like Tanzania and Nigeria can assist because Zimbabwe is going to be plunged into a security situation if this is not addressed.
Yes.
So should South Africa send, if they receive a request for extradition and they have an extradition treaty, should they just take Kasukuwere and Jonathan Moyo and Mzembe and send them to Zimbabwe? Or should they discuss behind the scenes and get the negotiation going first before sending back the... Because I think the charges, we all know that these charges are not, they won't pass in court. They are... Kasukuwere was in fact in court in Zimbabwe and he was cleared.
And he was cleared, yes.
So these are political charges.
Yes.
What process then should be followed to get this situation resolved in ZANU PF?
Yes, they have to compromise. They have to compromise. And these countries which I talked about, they are instrumental in creating sanity. Because if we persist in this situation, I tell you, we will continue to see chaos in this country.
Okay. So I think we've talked for longer than we expected to talk. And your number is on the screen. I'm going to put your number on the screen. We have successfully given away 5 books that we had promised to give to people. And what I'm going to ask is for everyone to go on Amazon and buy the book. Is the book now available on Amazon? Zimbabwe Installing a True Democratic State?
Yes, it's on Amazon. I will send you the link on the page so that people can direct themselves there.
Yes, it's a prophetic book, very governance focused. I like this because I've been talking to you for almost 3 years now. And from the beginning, you've always looked at how governance, we have to improve the governance system. Because if you don't address the system, you continue to have the same problem occurring over and over again. Is there anything else you want to say before we close?
In my first book, The Next Zimbabwe, the first chapter, I talk about this issue that we can change labels of an empty bottle. You see, when actually what we need to label is the contents of the bottle itself. What is inside the bottle? So the first book, it dealt with issues to do with the same issues of contestation, but it was a book which focused more on Robert Mugabe. Then he was still the president of ZANU PF and Morgan Tsvangirai. So right now we have changed labels, but we have not labeled the contents. What is inside the bottle is right now we have the new ZANU PF president, who's Emerson Mnangagwa, MDC. It was Nelson Chamisa back then, but we have not labeled the contents of the of inside. So this is what I can say in final point, that we can change labels of empty bottles when actually what we need to label is how do we make decisions, how do we govern ourselves as Zimbabwe. So that's my final heads there.
Right, Mr. Simbi, thank you very much. And I want to answer Bule, what is the book title and author? And the book title is Zimbabwe, Installing a True Democratic State. The author is Terence Simbi. Thank you very much, Mr. Simbi. And I'll have you back again next week. If you've got questions, if you want to talk to Mr. Simbi, please go on the number that I've provided on the screen, and you can contact him there on WhatsApp and talk to him. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone who's watching, and thank you very much, Mr. Simbi.
Thank you.